Welcome to Personal Development Mastery Podcast, helping you take the simple actions to master personal development and create the life you yearn for. I'm your host, 𝗣𝗢𝗜𝗧𝗦. My mission is simple, to inspire you to take action towards a purposeful and fulfilling life. Today I will discuss and reflect on the previous episode 298 with Bernie Borges. And the reason why I'm going to do this is because, actually there are two reasons. The first reason was that the episode was about fulfillment and midlife. And I know that you can relate personally with both of these most likely. The second reason that I'm doing a reflection on the previous episode is this. Bernie and I went as guests in each other's podcasts, and we both shared our appreciation about the other's podcast, and we actually realized that our podcasts have a lot in common. So we decided to publish our episodes on the same day, and I invite you to listen to my episode at Bernie's podcast Midlife Fulfilled, where I open up and share my before fulfillment situation and my journey to after fulfillment. I have the feeling that if you enjoy Personal Development Mastery podcast, you will also enjoy Bernie's Midlife Fulfilled podcast. So, coming back to the topic of fulfillment in midlife. Midlife is a term that is widely misunderstood, and I also, until not so long ago, also made the same mistake. So, midlife is misunderstood as a midpoint in someone's life, but midlife is not a point. Rather, it is a season. And a big realization that happened for me during my conversation with Bernie in the previous episode of the podcast was those three phases of life that we have youth, midlife, and end of life. And Bernie defined the youth of our life as the period up to about usually around 30 plus or minus a few years, where we are still growing up. The responsibilities of life are not so many. We're still in the sense of our lifespan, we are young. Then there is the second phase of life, which is the midlife, which Bernie described it as adulting. And that period of life, that phase of life, the midlife, can last over the decade of 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s maybe, or even 80s and beyond. And the third phase of life is the end of life. And that happens when health declines and one's life is reaching near death. So the realization for me was that midlife is not just the 40s. Midlife is a long season in one's life, and it can last for decades while one is active in their life. One other thing we discussed with Bernie on the previous episode was that distinction between happiness and fulfillment, because many times people use them interchangeably. They talk about happiness and they say fulfillment, or they talk about fulfillment and they say happiness, but they're not the same thing. And there is a very important differentiation, and happiness is an emotion. It could last a moment, or it could last a period, or it could last a season in one's life. And it's generally connected to some external event. Fulfillment, on the other hand, is a feeling in our soul. It is less tangible. It comes from within. And we discussed how one can be happy without necessarily being fulfilled, and also the other way around. A very important differentiation between happiness and fulfillment. Obviously, most of us seek both in our life, but we have to realize that they're not the same thing. One other thing that Bernie talked about and I found very interesting was the happiness U curve, and he described it as, having a curve shaped like a U, and on one end of the curve, on the top left side, is when you are 18, and so your happiness is at the maximum. And then the curve goes downwards like a U, and it reaches a bottom point in the curve, which is around in the mid-40s. And then happiness rises again. And we talked about two specific reasons why after that mid-40s bottom point, then happiness generally rises again afterwards. We also talked about self-awareness and knowing our values, what's really important to us, as a path to self-actualization. And in the end of the episode, we talked about two things that you can do right now to start feeling more fulfilled. So if you're seeking greater fulfillment in your midlife season, this conversation is definitely one you won't want to miss. Sometimes you listen to a conversation that really stimulates you to think about your life in a different way. And if you are in your midlife season and you would like to live a more fulfilled life, then listen to my conversation with Bernie on his podcast Midlife Fulfilled. Until next time, stand out, don't fit in,